Hi guys, and welcome back to another Premier League prediction video. We're moving on to round 6 now, but a quick recap on round 5. I got one score correct, which was Arsenal beating Burnley 1-0. I'd also like to point out that although I got Newcastle Leeds wrong as I predicted 2-1 Leeds and it ended 1-1, I did say that Rafinha and St Maximin would be the dangerous players who were going to make something happen, and they got the only goals of the match. So it's not worth anything, but at least I got something right in that game. Let's move on to my predictions. Starting off with Saturday morning's game, and what an opening game it is. It's Chelsea versus Man City. Now Chelsea, they're top of the league, they've started brilliantly, and they've had 3 away games against the big 6 so far, and they've came out with 7 points. They're currently unbeaten. They, to me, have been the most impressive team so far this season, and if I had to pick someone to win the title so far, I'd say they're my favourites, and they were at the start of the season. I did have them first in my Premier League table prediction video, but they've been the best team to me so far, and I think it could continue. Man City lost their opening game. Then they started scoring loads of goals and won their next 3, played very well. But their last game against Southampton, they just stumbled. They couldn't get the ball in the back of the net and it ended 0-0. So it's difficult to call with Man City at the moment, as they were looking at getting a striker in the window, never brought one through. And it's really looking like it could cost them, because some games they're just not going to be able to score. Chelsea, they don't look possible to beat at the moment. So I'm going for a Chelsea win here. I think a lot of people will sit on the fence. I'm calling it. Chelsea to win 2-1. And now the second Saturday morning game, which is Man United versus Villa. Now, Man U, they won that game 2-1 against West Ham due to Mark Noble missing that last minute penalty. But I do think that Man U probably should have had a penalty in that game, at least one, as Ronaldo, although people could say he went down easily, I think at least one of them was a stonewall penalty. So it's sort of deserved. Man U deserved to win that game in the end. They were the better team. They've started very well. They're full of goals, and with Ronaldo in the team, they basically start a goal up. He's scored in every game so far, and he's been brilliant for them. Villa, on the other hand, they did get that win over Everton, the 3-0, but Everton were missing Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, so Everton were always going to struggle to score in that game without that sort of firepower. And Villa did play well in the second half. Leon Bailey came on for 21 minutes and had a cross that Digne headed in for an own goal, but it was a brilliant cross, very hard to deal with from the corner, and then scored a very good goal as well. So he had a brilliant 21 minutes. He came on, did all that, and then came off later, and he had a very good game. But I think Man U, they've just got too much. And I think they're going to win this 3-1. Moving on now to the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and starting with Everton versus Norwich. Now, Everton were poor against Villa. They've started the season quite well. They weren't very good. They were missing Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. And I'm pretty sure they're both going to be out again for this weekend's fixture against Norwich, which isn't a great sign for them. However, what is good for them is that they're playing Norwich, as they've only managed to score 2 goals in the league this season. They've got no points, and they lost that big 6-pointer against Watford that's basically relegated Norwich. I know that's a bit early, and it obviously hasn't relegated them, but if they can't get any points against Watford, they're going to struggle this season a lot. So for this one, I think Everton, they've obviously got too much for this Norwich side. Townsend and Damari Gray are playing brilliantly. Townsend, every time I look, he's got a goal or an assist in every game. He's brilliant. And I think Everton are going to comfortably win this 2-0. Now we go on to Leeds versus West Ham. Now Leeds, they've started the season poorly. They got a draw against Newcastle. They still haven't won a game this season, which is quite worrying as they started a lot better last season under Bielsa than they have this season. I think Bielsa will get them going eventually, but I don't think it'll be against this West Ham side. For West Ham, Antonio will be coming back, and that's a massive boost. He'll bring goals to the team as he usually does score every time he plays, and they did well against Man U, to be fair. Mark Noble missed that last minute penalty. He hadn't had a kick of the ball. He came on and missed, and I did feel bad for West Ham, but as I said earlier, Man U probably should have had at least one penalty anyway, so it sort of ruled that out, and Man U did deserve to win it. But West Ham, they've been very good this season. They started very well, and I can see them winning here. I think Antonio's going to score, and I'm going West Ham to win 2-1. Now, moving on to Leicester versus Burnley. And Leicester, they weren't very good last weekend. They lost 2-1 to high-flying Brighton, and they haven't really started the season well. Burnley, they've got 1 point so far this season. It was against Leeds in a draw, and they're really struggling. I think this could be the season that they finally go down, and Sean Dyche has done a brilliant job there, but can he really keep them up again? I'm not so sure. On the bright side for Burnley, Jay Rodriguez scored all four in a 4-1 win over Rochdale in midweek, which was brilliant for them. Jay Rodriguez did very well in that game. Obviously, he got 4 goals, and maybe that can see them scoring more goals in the league now. I'm not so sure. And I think Leicester will get the better of them. So I'm going Leicester to win 2-0. And the last 3 o'clock game is Watford versus Newcastle. Now, Newcastle, they started the season very poorly. They're yet to win a game, and it's not looking great for them at the moment. Watford picked up their second win of the season with that 3-1 victory over Norwich. Ismail Assar scored 2 goals again, like he did on the opening day against Villa, so his tally's now 4 in the league, which is a good return for a winger that's just came up for a newly promoted side, and he's their spark. If they're going to do well this season, it's because he's going to play well and he's going to get them goals and assists. And I think they're going to win again. I think they're going to get the second one in a row because Newcastle, as I say, they just don't look great. So I'm going Watford to win this 2-1. And now, Saturday's late fixture, and it's my wild card. It's Brentford versus Liverpool. And I know some people are going to be like, Liverpool as your wild card again. You said it against Palace last week, and they beat them 3-0. But with Brentford, they've actually sort of backed it up. Palace, I think they just had a shock 3-0 game against Tottenham, and it was a bit of a blip. Brentford, on the other hand, they just beat Wolves 2-0. They played brilliantly. Ivan Toney playing really well. And it's their second win of the season. They've got 2 wins, 2 draws, and only 1 loss, which was in the last minute against Brighton. So Brentford are playing brilliantly. They've only lost 1 game, and they've only conceded 2 goals in their first 5, and it's their first time in the Premier League. So they are just very, very hard to play against by the look of it. And they're clinical enough up top to put teams away. Liverpool, obviously, they're second in the league, joint top with identical record with Chelsea. And they've played well, but not to discredit them for anything. They have had much easier fixtures than a lot of teams up there. 3 of the teams that they've played haven't won a game yet. The only game that they've played against someone who's doing decent so far was against Chelsea. Chelsea were the better team in the first half, then had a man sent off, 1-1 at half time because of a penalty, and Chelsea hung on and Liverpool didn't really create too many good chances. So, not to discredit them, but I think they've had a very easy run in so far. And I think when a few tougher games come up is where they might start struggling. And I think this could be a surprise tough game because I don't think Liverpool will expect too much from Brentford. I think, not to say that they take it anyway, but a lot of the bigger teams, when they come up against these smaller teams, will not rest players, but they won't push as hard in a match. They'll think it's easy, and Brentford are a team you don't want to do that against because they are clinical, and I think Brentford are going to get something out of this game. I don't think they'll win it, but I think they're going to get a point. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw. Moving on to Sunday's fixtures now, and starting off with Southampton versus Wolves. Now Southampton, they've got 1 loss and 4 draws in a row so far this season, and their last one was a shock 0-0 against Man City, which is a brilliant point to get. They've also drawn with Man U and West Ham so far this season, so they're looking quite difficult to beat, Southampton, but they just can't win a game so far. Wolves, on the other hand, they've won 1 and they've lost 4, so they haven't started very well. However, I think they played well in their other losses. In the loss against Brentford, I think they deserved to lose. Brentford were the better team on the day, and it was deserved that Wolves lose that one. For this game, I don't see Southampton's pattern changing. I think it's got draw written all over it. And I'm going to go for both teams to score, so I'm going for a 1-1 draw. The next game is the North London derby. It's Arsenal versus Spurs. But I'm afraid I don't think it's going to be a very entertaining North London derby, as both teams haven't been entertaining so far this season. Arsenal, they started terribly. They've won their last 2 games, only 1-0 against Burnley and Norwich, who are 2 strong relegation candidates. Spurs, they started really strong, won their first 3 1-0, lost their last 2 3-0, and they don't look great either. So for this one, I was very tempted to go for a 0-0, but as it's a North London derby, I think there'll be some goals, but I think it's just going to be a 1-1 with a red card. So 1-1. And the last game is Monday Night Football's game. It's Crystal Palace versus Brighton. And this is a difficult one to call. Palace, they've went from beating Tottenham 3-0 to losing to Liverpool 3-0. And they've had a pretty all over the place season so far. Brighton, they've been really good. They've won 4 out of 5. And they haven't really faced anyone too big. Their only loss was to Everton, which was a 2-0. But on the weekend, they faced Leicester, who obviously they finished 5th the last 2 seasons running. So, tough game for Brighton. But they came through, they won 2-1, and they played well. So, I think Brighton now are really starting to build something here. And a lot of people normally tip them towards the bottom of the table. I think they could be pushing towards the top half of the table this season. For this one, I wanted to go for a draw, but I think Brighton are just going to about nick it and win their 5th game this season in 6 games, which is crazy to say. But I'm going Brighton to win 2-1. So, that's it for my predictions for the 6th round of Premier League fixtures. Please let me know in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with. Put your predictions down in the comments. Please like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Premier League and Championship content. There's some great fixtures this weekend, and let's hope they can produce entertaining matches.